Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to see another tutorial on Arduino. So if you have seen one of my previous project, we have done a project with Arduino, PIR sensor and LED. So in that, we used to have the process like the PIR sensor detect the motion and the LED will get lit. So there was some requirement from some of the subscribe colleagues that they need to have one more addition that when there is a sensor detect a motion along with an LED, we need to also have some buzzer sound. So I'm enhancing that project here. So I'm adding one more piece of buzzer. So what will happen is, when the sensor detects a motion, the LED will be lit, and also we will see how we can make the buzzer to make a sound. Okay, so we'll use a different argument there. So we'll go through the step-by-step process in this tutorial, how to make the circuit, how to make the connection, how to write the code to have your LED lit, and also the buzzer to make the sound. Okay. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe, like the video, share, and comment. So again, for this tutorial, we are going to use Tinkercad, which is the simulation software which we are using for Arduino project. And by end of the tutorial you just need to make the connection physically to Arduino and breadboard and your devices. Just copy the code from the simulation what we have prepared, and you can just upload it to the Arduino IDE. Okay, so like in this Tinkercad we have a few screen. Right on the top you can see the code simulation, and on the right you have the components. So if you have not used the Tinkercad before, that's how it is. If you don't have any account, you just go to tinkercad.com and create an account so you can create the circuit. So first we will do is we'll add a Arduino Uno board. Okay, so that will be our first step. Then I'm going to use a breadboard so that I can make an easy connection. So let me move it here. Okay, so we have the Arduino Uno and we have the breadboard. Okay, so next step is we need to have the PIR sensor. So I'm going to use the PIR sensor here. Okay, let me move the breadboard a little bit down. So for the PIR sensor, we have three pins. One is for ground, one is power, and one is the signal. So as the normal definition, the power and ground, you need to connect to the 5 volt and also to the ground Okay. The signal is what we will be using to the one of the pin in the Arduino. So whenever there is a sensor detecting a motion, this pin will give some signal. So we need to read using some of the pin in Arduino. Okay. So what we are going to do is first let me use the 5 volt from the Arduino. Okay, let me connect that to the one of the side on the breadboard so we can use this to connect to our 5. We can power up the PIR sensor. So let me give this as red, and it's going to be ground here. So I'm going to use that to the ground. Okay, so the negative port. Okay, let me give black. So you can just follow along, okay, or you can wait for the end to the circuit to be completed, then you can make the complete connection. You see the 5 volt here and ground. So let me just what we do is we'll connect the ground to here, okay, which will be the black, and the power to here, okay, the 5 volt. So you can use any two pins from here or from here to power your devices. So since the first step is to the ground, I'll use the ground here. Okay, so I'm going to connect the sensor to the ground. This should be black, okay, and this is the power. So it's going to be like this. Okay, so we have connected the 5 volt to the power and the ground to the ground. So in physically when you connect to the PIR sensor, please check the pin because it may not be always the power in the center as you see in this case in the simulation or the software here. But when you have your own PIR sensor, just check the backside or the pin definition. So some of the pin will be in a different position. So it's not mandatory the power should be on the center. Okay, so what I have it physically, the power is on the left and ground is on the right, and the middle is for signal. Now I'm going to use the signal to one of the pin in Arduino. So I'm going to use the pin 2. Okay, so I'm going to use the pin 2 to read the signal from the PIR sensor. So let me give some different color for this. So we have done the connection with the PIR sensor. So what it does is like whenever there is a motion detected, means you have power and ground, so it will the PIR sensor will get the enough power to turn on, and once you find a motion, it will make this pin as high. So we'll write the code to read the pin number 2, so that when there is a signal detected, that will become as a high. Okay. Now, if you have seen the previous tutorial, we are using an LED, right? So let's use an LED. Okay, so let's use an LED here. So LED have an anode and cathode, right? So we need a resistor as well. So from the cathode, I'm using a resistor. Okay, so this will go to the ground. Okay, so the ground is connected. Now we have to connect the signal to the LED anode. So I'm going to use the pin 12 here for this. So I'll use this connection like this. So what does this means? Like, the pin number 12 will decide whether the LED has to be lit or not. So if the pin 12 we can define, you will get the power, the LED will be turned on. So let me give a blue color for this. So we are done with the connection for LED as well. Now we need to use a buzzer. Okay, so let me use a buzzer. Okay, so I'm going to use a piezo buzzer here. Okay, so here buzzer you have two signal again. So one is positive and another one for negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another resistor. So let me use it here. Okay, and I'm going to connect the negative to the resistor one end. Okay, this should be, and the other end should be going to the ground. Okay, so the color would be black again. Okay, and this resistor values I'll give 220 ohms because we don't need 1k ohms, so I'll change it to 220 ohms resistor. Okay, now this positive value or positive pin has to come from another pin from Arduino, so I'm going to use the pin 13 for it. Okay, you can directly connect, or if you want, you can connect like this, or I will use to the breadboard. So you can connect to the breadboard and then you can connect to the piezo buzzer. Okay, so it should be like this. Move the LED a little bit up. Okay, so here you can connect it to this. Let's use a different color for this as well. So you can see now we are done with the connection. So the pin number 13 is going to the positive for buzzer, and this negative is going through the resistor, and also the pin number 12 is going to the positive for LED and negative is going to the ground, and the PIR sensor is also connected. Okay, so now it's time to write the code. So let me go to the text editor. Okay, So what we require, let me do that. Okay. So we have three pins we are using, right? Pin number two is going to be input, because we are going to read the input from PIR sensor. So it's going to be input, and we have pin number 12 and 13, right? 12 is going to be output, because we are going to give or control the LED and the piezo buzzer using the 12 and 13. Okay, and this is going to be 13, which is going to be an output again. Okay, so 2, 12, and 13. So rather than defining the 2, 12, and 13 here, the standard way is you do some variables. So I want to start with a variable called pin sensor. Okay, so this is going to be equal to. So I'm going to call the pin sensor here. So the pin number 2 is going to be input. Okay, then I'm going to call another one. Okay, another variable which is going to be pin LED, which is 12, right? And another one is pin buzzer, which is 13. Okay, so I'm going to use these variables over here. So rather than I'm going to give it directly, because that's the standard way to do it. So if you want to make any changes, you do just change the variables here, so you don't have to make the changes in the whole code. And I'm going to have one more variable which is called a PIR sensor, and I'm going to set that to 0, because I will be using this variable to detect the value from the PIR sensor. So when there is a value, I want to save the signal value into this PIR sensor variable, so we can do the full configurations. Okay, so I will show you how we can make use of that. So I'm going to remove this section. Okay, so in the void loop section, what we are going to do is we are going to use this variable, and the value for this is currently set as 0. So what we are going to do is we are going to use PIR sensor. Okay, let me just make it like this, so it's all on the same format. Okay, PIR sensor is the variable, and this will be the digital read. Okay, because I'm going to read the pin. I'm going to read the pin sensor. Okay, so what it does is we have the pin 2, right? So which is the map to pin sensor. So this PIR sensor will get the value from the pin sensor. So this for function will read, digital read will read the value. So when the PIR sensor is having motion detected, so it will give the value as 1 here or high. So that value will be saved to the PIR sensor. Okay. Now we are going to make use of a if loop. So if it's going to be PIR sensor equal to high. So what does that mean? Once it's readed the value for pin sensor, it will be saved to PIR sensor, and we are checking if the PIR sensor value is high. Okay. So when the value is high, it means there is a motion detected. So then we have to do a digital write to the 12 and 13, so that the LED is lit and also the piezo buzzer is making that noise. Okay. So we need to do a digital write, and it's going to be pin LED, comma high. The high is going to be all capital letters. Okay. So what we are doing is we are writing the high to this LED. So 12 will become high and the LED should be lit. Okay. Now how we can make the noise from the buzzer? Can we make the same digital write to make 13 as high? No, it does not work like that. So for buzzer we need to use another function called tone. And this tone takes actually three arguments. One is the pin number where the buzzer is connected, and another one is the frequency, and another one is the duration. So the pin number is going to be pin buzzer, right? So pin buzzer, and the frequency of the sound, so I will give 1000, and the duration I'll give 500. Okay, let's see if we can test that. So once that is done, so next step is the else part, right? So if it's not detected, what we have to do. So the else part is if the PIR sensor when it's reading and it's not high means the LED should be low, right? So the pin LED will be low. Otherwise, when it become high, it will be always in the lit state. So let's write it, digital write pin LED low. Okay, I think this should work. So let's try out. Okay, let me click on start simulation. If we have some errors, we will see. Okay, so pin LED was not declared in this scope. Okay, so the problem is we are using capital P here, so it should be small p, pin LED, right? So did we use anywhere else? Yeah, here as well. So we need to use pin LED, which is a small p, right? Not capital P. So I think we have mistyped it. So let me start the simulation again. So you can see it's running now. Okay. So let me move a little bit this one and let me make it smaller so we can see it. Okay. So now we can try to change, this one so the motion will be detected. You can hear, the sound, right? So the buzzer is making that noise. There is a small error because we have not put the else here because the else should come like this. So that's why, we will keep getting that beep sound because, it will not stop unless you put the else here. Okay. And I'm also going to give a delay between these things, so for small 10 seconds. So you can see we have put the else. Okay, so where the digital write will be low. Okay, let me try to do the simulation again. Now you see it's just made the sound and just stopped, right? I hope you can also hear the sound. I can hear it, so hopefully you'll also hear the sound. Now if you see, both the LED also will be the LED is lit and also the buzzer is making the sound, right? So I think our code is working perfectly fine. So now what you have to do is you have to make this same connection. You can copy the code, then you can paste it to your Arduino IDE and you can upload it to your device, so it will start working. So I'm not going to do that because I don't have the buzzer working in my physical one, so I'm not able to make that connection to show it hands-on. But if you have seen my previous tutorial, I have shown with Arduino how I connected the LED and it's working physically on my Arduino board. Okay, so I hope this is informative for you, and if you have some project or anything, you can make use of this, and you'll be able to enhance from this to your next project. Okay. So if you have not subscribed to my channel, I would request you to subscribe, like the video, share and comment.